Hello, this is Raymond Kalmar. This is for Dr. Davis's Site 278, Lifespan and Human Development, project week 11 on As the Twig is Bent, So Grows the Tree. So with that said, let's get right into it. The saying, as the twig is bent, so grows the tree, is a proverbial saying coined by Alexander Pope in 1732, which was over 281 years ago. It means the experiences in early life or childhood influence us and carry over into adulthood. I would say that this saying, when using a developmentalist theory, it really encompasses Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages. With that said, I feel Erikson was more focused on a nurture theory when looking at the nature versus nurture coin. I say this because I feel that his 8 stages are all linked to relationships. I believe you will see how closely Erikson's theory aligns with his stages align with the meaning of Alexander Pope's "As the twig is bent, so grows the tree," as we look at these 8 stages. So let's get into these stages and go through them real quick, and you'll see how the twig is shaped and bent. So let's go and take a look here. So in stage 1, we're talking about trust versus mistrust, and this is early. So this is age 0 to 1, and this is where we're learning as babies to develop trust, that sense of trust that we will either develop later in life, whether we trust or not. And that's all based on whether or not we're providing our babies the necessities of life and meeting their needs. And part of that is, keeping a balance, obviously heavier toward trust than mistrust, but just enough to so that there's a little skepticism there. In stage 2, we go to autonomy versus shame and doubt, which is your age group from 1 to 3 years of age, and it's about creating a balance of assertiveness, and it's a time that a child wants to maybe separate and explore on their own without fearing, without the fear of ability not to succeed. And at this stage, you can determine whether he or she will have a sense of doubt or faith in their abilities. And at this point, the tree is starting to grow from a sprout to a very small twig. Because in stage 1, we were just like a sprout. We haven't even we're just starting to get out of the ground. In stage 3, initiative versus guilt, and then we're talking about ages 3 to 6, and in that age group, this is where your child's starting to learn the intellectual and motor skills, and really start to develop their intelligence. And they start to test the boundaries with their sibling rivalries maybe, and the boundaries with others, and start to learn the rights of others and their own rights. And we're still in that growing stage, and just starting to shape. Twig is starting to turn into a small sapling, so if you will. So in stage 4, we're talking industry versus inferiority, and this is really important stage. You're talking about ages 6 to 12, and it's important because this is where children are really starting to learn their social and their academic skills. They're learning to build a sense of accomplishment, which is your industry side of that, and they're starting to learn what they're capable of, and how they're mastering the various skills that they're learning. On the other side of that, if they're unable to accomplish some of the tasks, having trouble with math, reading, whatever that might be, and I mean, this could be to different reasons, but I mean, let me give you an example. The example would be maybe they have ADHD or ADD, and they're having trouble accomplishing the same tasks that the kids in their class are accomplishing, and then they start to feel inferior, which is the inferiority side of this. And with that comes possibly conduct issues, behavioral disruptions, because they feel inferior to the other children. And in this stage, we can really start to see that twig bend, and it can bend in one direction or the other. So, it's a very important stage. So when we get to stage 5, we're talking about identity versus confusion, role confusion. And this is age 12 to 20 years. And so at the front end of this, we're talking about adolescence and trying to find their sense of belonging, and their morality and ethics start to take a role, and they're creating their social identities, and their vocational identities, trying to find and develop out their roles, what's going to happen when I become an adult, as they reach the back end of that stage. So once again, this is part of the twig can be bent in many different directions, and it can have several different influences during this stage. It's a very important stage. So moving on to stage 6, this is the intimacy and isolation stage, and age is 20 to 40. It's a broad range, but it's what I would call or refer to probably as the relationship stage. Kind of intimacy and isolation refer to that, and it's where all the previous stages have kind of created the person we are, and trust comes into play, and assertiveness, and various other things that we've kind of developed as we came along. But this is where we learn where we have the ability to share our lives with someone else, and not have the fear of intimacy. Now the other side of that obviously is the isolation side, and that's where I think we're unable to give ourselves, and we lack the ability to commit to that relationship, and therefore they tend to end up isolated, and more by themselves, not having fulfilling relationships. So here I feel the tree has really formed, but yet there's still that slight ability to bend that twig a little bit more before it's all said and done. So now we get into stage 7, and that's the generativity versus stagnation, which is that 40 to 65 years of age stage. And in this stage, we're trying to decide, have we accomplished what we set out to accomplish in our lives? Have we reached the goals? Have we obtained what we wanted to? Are we leaving a legacy behind for our children and families to say we can be proud of what we've accomplished? And I think in this stage, though, in the early part of this stage, we can redirect our efforts in order to hopefully reach our life goals, and instead of becoming the opposite, or the other part of this stage, which is the stagnant side, and become depressed and unhappy with the fact that we haven't been able to accomplish our goals. So, like I said, on the front end of this one, we definitely have the ability to still reach the goals. It's a good point in our lives to look back and say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm doing. I've gotten this far, so we need to go a little bit farther. In stage 8, we're talking about integrity versus despair. And this is that 65 and older, and we're trying to decide, all right, so let's reflect and see, am I really happy about the choices and the outcome of my life to this point? And that's where that integrity side, you're saying, yeah, you know what, I'm pretty proud of my life and the way it's come to this point. The other side of that is the despair side. That's where you're saying, golly, I'm not happy about my life. I don't feel like I accomplished what I wanted to, and I feel like I had no purpose in life. And those people that feel that way can really fall into a deep depression. So as you can see, Erickson's psychosocial stages, his 8 stages, really fall on the line of how we discussed in the beginning that how that twig is bent, so goes the tree, so grows the tree, excuse me. But it does really, it's based on experiences in early life all the way through adulthood, all the way up until that stage 8 of adulthood. Erickson believed that human development was determined through childhood experiences and continued to evolve through adulthood. And I just believe that fits Alexander Pope's "as a twig is bent, so grows the tree." The in-text citation, Friedman, 1999, as cited by Siegelman and Ryder, 2012, page 41. My resource was Siegelman, C.K., and Ryder, E.A., 2012, Lifespan, Human Development, 7th edition, Belmont, California, Wadsworth Publishing. Thank you. I've enjoyed our time together. I've enjoyed this course tremendously. Have a great evening.